I was asked a question, how do you approach clients? What do you ask them? How do you know what their requirements are? So the person that asked this question has a hard time trying to sort of foresee what the client wants. Now, really, the way to answer that question is to know what they want, you have to first of all do quite a few other websites to get an idea. Now you can make up a document like I've done, which sort of fields out the questions of common questions of what they're going to want. So let's say you have the simplest type of website, which is a small business website. Okay, so this is probably their business's first professional entry into web design. So what you're looking at is asking some key features is, first of all, who are your clients? So you want to get an idea of the people coming to their website. This will give you a good idea of how to start the construction of the site and how to lay it out. So let's say that the most common reason why people go to a website and use Google is just to sort of find the business number. So let's say that's it there. So if for nothing else, that whole website is purely there to be in a search engine, and you want to find Tom's Mechanic. So you type in mechanic, your local area, and then, or even specifically type in Tom's Mechanic, and then up comes this website, first one. So that's the simplest use for a website. The next thing is, of course, to get competition. Okay, so beat your competition. So Tom's Mechanic might be a mechanic in a city. So somebody types in mechanic and then their city. So then up comes all of these other mechanics that happen to have websites, and then you're in competition. So then now the site takes over a new role of being a little search engine friendly, a little bit of SEO work in there. So making sure that you're using the right keywords. After that, of course, then you're looking at what is the business and what information do you want to put forward to who. So let's start with the home page, and the home page structure and layout commonly goes like this. It goes hero image, and then after that you might have some sort of call to action to get them started straight from there, and then usually something like their services, showing a summary of their services they provide or products. And then after that, probably a little bit about them. You might want to sprinkle some testimonials through that page as well. And then you want to start using some keywords within that home page, within the titles, within the text itself. And then a little bit of contact information down the bottom of the website, also at the top of the website, because sometimes that's the whole reason why people are going there. So they want to see pretty much contact information splattered all over the page. So these are sort of common layouts, very broad, very common. And of course, once you start to talk to your client, you'll get an idea of what they want. So really make up a list of questions. What do you want to use your website for? Do you want to use it for online sales? Do you want to use it to relieve a workload from existing staff? Because you may be getting too many calls on certain things that could just really be listed on a website. Do you want to have your website so that people contact you because that's the way you make your sales, through talking to people? And then who are the sort of people? What sort of age group are they? Are they mainly males or females? Is there an age group? Does the website have to have a young, trendy approach? Should it have bold, clear text because it's an aged care service or something like that? So your different business types will also reflect the website that you're making. Will your website be geared towards professionals already in the industry that know the terminology and are familiar with your product already? So that may be somebody, for example, selling medical equipment in the medical profession. They will obviously won't be dumbing down their text or dumbing down what they've got for sale, because the people know people buying the medical equipment will already have a good grasp on what they want and possibly already even know the product. So then that sort of gives a different direction again for the website. Then of course you have personal preference from the client, and this is hard because clients' personal preference can interfere with the way the website really should be structured and laid out. So the best thing to do is to get them to send you through some ideas of websites they like, because if they've done a little bit of research, they'll have a good idea of other websites, and generally it's competitions or competitors' websites that they're sort of getting their inspiration from. I like to say to them, look, you can go anywhere, just naturally with some layouts of websites, they don't sort of suit some businesses. So once again, I always refer back to mechanics, but you can imagine a mechanic website wouldn't have the same sort of layout and structure as, say, a photographer's website. So yeah, there's differences, and you've got to, and if a mechanic wants a layout like a photographer's website, ultimately he can have it like that. You just sort of have to recommend structures. And look, I'm sure there's a lot of designers that will say, well, look, they can be different if they want. And that's right, they can be different. You can have the most artistic website for a mechanic's website. But once again, the clientele that are going there only want to know how good he is, just a contact number, and they want to find out whether they can fix their make and model of car. They don't want to have to struggle through an artistic design of a website. It's just business, okay? They just want to sort of get to what they want to quickly and find out that it's a professional site, easy to navigate, all these sort of things. So yeah, ultimately you can do what you want, but these sort of guidelines do make a better business website. And a lot of business websites can be stock standard, and there's a few reasons behind that. Sometimes it's the limitations on the designer, and sometimes it's because if people are shopping for apples, they want apples. They don't want to have to sort of go through 10 layers of an onion to get to an apple. So your common design for websites do stay the same with these business websites. So logo, top left-hand side, menu, navigation, hero image, services. People come to expect these things. They want to navigate around quickly. It's like doing a Windows program or a Mac program and then suddenly having the menu down the bottom of this software. It would just drive people nuts having file, edit, and all these sort of menu items down there. There's a common structure to it because it's quick and easy to navigate. It's business, and generally it's not too creative in that sense. You can go creative, but just you're always going to be within fields of creativity. Anyway, I do think I'm getting off topic here. So the main topic is, how do you foresee what your clients want and work it out for them? Now, other times it's a big project and it's involved, and you've got to think that this person with their idea has had this in their head for quite a while, and now they have to explain it to you. These bigger projects are harder. They have layers upon layers of inner workings of how the client wants this website to be created and to navigate. Ideas like these are always unique because it's something, obviously, they're trying to do what hasn't been done before, and these are hard. You cannot just spend a half an hour discovery on these things and expect to get it all nutted out. And in the same way, you cannot give a quote on these. Unfortunately, these ones are in depth, and you have to get the client, and you have to talk to the client, potential client, for a little while on what their visions are of the way the website works. So the best thing you can do for them is to get them to write out a process. The process of a user, the person that comes in, this is what happens. That person comes in and he signs up, and then he checks out what's available in the test area of the website or the free area of the website. Then he likes what he sees, and then he subscribes to the site. And then after subscribing, he can now access this, this, and this. And then once he does this, then he has access to these levels. So it's a path, a workflow that has to be written out and both understood by yourself and the client. So these ones are harder, bigger projects, and these start to get out of the field of what I do. I'm a front-end developer. I'm not a coder. So I generally look for software that will, existing software that will run the ideas that they have. And most of the time there is existing software out there, and you just have to be aware of the software and have used it in the past and can get an idea of how it can help that client. These projects are a little bit harder because you can guarantee that they're going to want a set price, which you should not give. You always give an estimate, because with projects like this, it always happens that suddenly you reach a point in the creation of it and you go, rightio, what happens here or here at the development of this website? So, and the client goes, oh, I never thought of that. Well, there's something that you didn't quote for. Okay, so either if you've given a set quote, then you're out of pocket, because this also, or the client starts to get a little bit upset because suddenly the expenses and the cost is going up and up and up. Whenever a client comes in like this, I always tell them, whatever quote I give you, you can guarantee that by the end of it, you're going to be paying at least double. And that's a horrible thing for them to hear. It's just because unless the project is smaller, in these sort of bigger projects, if they're a smaller sort of one, and I fully understand and I fully know the software that can be used to make this work, there are always variables that will come into the mix. So I do say to them, on these bigger ones, just understand that it could double in cost. So what I give you from the estimate we're talking about now, it could double. And most of the times they do understand this. And if you don't say that first up, then you're just going to be doing yourself in. Halfway through this project, you're going to burn your budget for it. Suddenly you're working another half of the project for free. And that's nothing worse, because you start to slacken off on the project because suddenly it's not viable for you. The client gets cranky with you, and then the whole experience is just bad. So make sure the client has, for these bigger projects, has a workflow laid out that you can see. From that workflow, then you should be able to ask questions. Well, hang on a sec, what happens when they get to here? What's going on there? Will they do this or this? And then the client goes, oh, I'm not too sure. I'll think about that. So yeah, look, it is a little bit backwards and forwards for those bigger projects. So in summary of this, you need to write out a list of discovery questions for your client. Okay, and try and think of all aspects. Now, usually when a new client comes on board, I will sometimes add to my discovery question list. If it's a different type of business, then obviously the discovery questions might change a little bit. But after a while, you'll have this full list of discovery questions that works well for you. And of course, the discovery questions are things like what I've gone over a couple of times, which is who is your clientele, and who's your target market and things like that. I even used to have really just a document or a piece of paper next to me that when I had people call up, I would have just this list of questions just to ask them first up. And that does help a lot, because they immediately get this sense that obviously you're a professional and you've dealt with heaps of clients before and you know what questions to ask. So it's really handy to have that little list. Just have it next to the computer, next to the phone. When somebody calls, you can just start rattling, oh really, what sort of website is it? What's the product you're selling? And then once they sort of go down the road of what product they're selling, you may have done some other businesses along the same lines. So then all of a sudden you're asking internal business questions in relation to their business, which they also like as well, because they then get a idea that you understand their business and you can help them quickly without them having to put in too much effort. And let's just say that just about all clients love putting in no effort. All right, so I hope this helped in some way, and keep the questions coming. It's goodbye for now.